I've been wealthy and I've been poor, and I like wealthy a lot better. It's a lot more fun.
You know, we've all been given a certain amount of talent.
I feel like that money is pretty much like a barometer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that in heaven, like God, releases money to people. And it's like he's with the angels, like, hey, watch this. Let's see how this guy acts.
Some of that problem with that is, at some point I ran out of talent.
Favor is the most valuable commodity as an entrepreneur. Convinced everybody to turn the desk around, and we all were facing the back wall.
I was probably the rare exception that knew what I wanted to do at 18. I knew, I'd always said from as long as I can remember, I wanted to play football. And when I was done playing football, I wanted to coach football.
Like, how do you handle this favor? What are you going to do with it? The only difference between a good idea and a God idea is one of them. And you got to put people in your life that can make you ask the question, oh, I didn't think of that.
Are you going to be a person of faith or a person of fear?
The root word in entrepreneur is manure. And
so Joey finds himself in poop. Got it. All right.
When you find yourself in poop, you figure out how you're going to sell it.
Because they're both the same thing.
Right.
You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. Which are you going to let influence you?
Yeah, but no, you're not brave. I just didn't see the cliff. And that's an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. This is the Clark Connection Podcast, where 12 years of coaching championships meets real-world leadership. Coach Clark broke through at the highest levels. Now he's bringing you the playbook. Every week, real leaders, real wins. Real strategies you can use Monday morning. If you're done with theory and ready for results, this is your show. You in? Let's go!
Welcome back to the Clark Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, a.k.a. The Coach, where we talk leadership, real growth, and real connection. Before we jump in, I want to take a moment to shout out today's sponsors of the show. This episode of the Clark Connection Podcast is proudly brought to you by Hubbard Flooring Studio. Leadership, growth, and success all start with a strong foundation, but the details matter too. Vicki and her team don't just specialize in high-quality flooring. They also offer Hunter Douglas blinds, bringing both function and design together in one place. Whether you're building, renovating, or upgrading a home or business, Hubbard Flooring Studio helps you create a space that reflects quality, intention, and excellence, from the floors you stand on to the light you let in. Now, if you're ready to work with people who care about craftsmanship and getting it right, visit hubbardflooringstudio.com or call 225-924-1582. Hubbard Flooring Studio, covering you from the ground up. Shout out to Steadfast Electric for supporting the show. When your power needs to be reliable, not just good enough, Brian and his team deliver safe, dependable electric work for homes and businesses. No shortcuts, no guesswork. Learn more at steadfastelectric.com or call 225-457-7957. Steadfast Electric, reliable power done right the first time. I want to recognize Bobbie with the Comfy Quest LLC for sponsoring the podcast. Bobbie specializes in craniosacral therapy, a highly specialized form of bodywork, and she's one of only 2 therapists in the Baton Rouge area offering it. This work helps the body release deep tension, regulate the nervous system, and truly reset. To learn more or book a session, visit massagebook.com/acomfyquest or call 225-773-0307. A Comfy Quest, specialized craniosacral therapy for a real nervous system reset. A big thanks to Automate Integrate Professional Services for backing the show. Andrew helps businesses simplify, automate, and integrate their systems, so leaders stop wasting time on manual work and start focusing on growth. Visit automate-integrate.com or email Andrew at automate-integrate.com. Automate Integrate, systems that work so you don't have to overwork. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Bob Smith, chiropractic internist, for sponsoring today's episode. Dr. Bob focuses on identifying the root cause of pain and dysfunction, not just covering up symptoms. If your body isn't performing the way it should, This is the kind of care that looks deeper. Learn more at brspine.com or call 225-291-2626. Dr. Bob Smith, finding the root cause, not just chasing symptoms. Your support helps us keep these conversations coming, and I'm grateful for it. Now, today's episode is one you're going to feel, not just hear. I sit down with Joey Dupont, and we go deep into entrepreneurship, business, mentorship, faith, family, and the realities most people don't talk about. This isn't surface level motivation. This is about what it takes to actually build something meaningful, financially, personally, and generationally. Joey shares how his early sales experiences shaped his entrepreneurial drive, why money is a tool and not the goal, how mentorship changes everything, and how AI is becoming a serious advantage for decision-making in modern business. We also get real about navigating financial pressures that involving your family in the journey and raising the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurship. This conversation is honest, grounded, and practical. And it's exactly the kind of dialogue we need more of. So let me go ahead and bring Joey on and introduce you to him. All right. And Joey, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on, brother.
Oh, my pleasure. And, I just got done rattling off a list of the scroll's still rolling down there of all the stuff you do, kind of the entrepreneur extraordinaire. I think we just determined that you're the world's most extraordinary gentleman. So, what's the latest and greatest you're working on right now?
Well, the quote I gave you was the most handsome man, but I guess we'll take the
Sorry, handsome. I didn't want to admit that out loud because I believe that.
I understand. There you go. So yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm definitely, excited to be here, and we're closing out the end of the year, preparing everything, getting everything set up to prepare for next year. And that's probably the process I'm in right now. Like every year we take a sabbatical, like between Christmas and New Year's, and sort of brainstorm and plan and figure out what's next,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all sorts of different things. I know you've got your hand involved in 225 trade, that firewood, that boat rental. I guess let's start there. Like, how did Joey end up starting off as an entrepreneur?
Well, the root word in entrepreneur is manure, and
so Joey finds himself in poop. Got it. All right.
Yeah, that's it. So when you find yourself in poop, you figure out how you're going to sell it. But I think probably like from an early age, I've always had like this desire to sell. I remember like being, I don't know, 8 years old. My brother was actually on the firewood company, and he would send us door to door to go knock on doors and ask people if they want to buy firewood. So any place that had a chimney was not safe. And we covered and scoured the neighborhoods, and that's how we started out. I got my first actual sales job at 15, and it was with my dad. My dad had an RV dealership, and I was at one of the RV shows, and I'd been studying up on the brochures, reading all the brochures, getting all the information about about the RVs that I could possibly learn. And sure enough, I got my opportunity. My dad was at one end of the aisle, which this is at the Pontchartrain Center. It was a football field long, literally, football field long, but he was at the other end of the aisle talking to somebody about an RV, and somebody came up to one of the diesel pushers that I was studying the brochure on, and he said, "Can anybody help me?" And so I walked up and started talking to him, and I was, professional, and he asked questions like, "Hey, what's the turning radius on this?" Well, I studied all this stuff. So I was like, it's 136-inch wheelbase, and the turning radius is going to be, 9 feet, every time we go. The rear end is a lower end rear end differential. It's going to get better gas mileage. It's going to pull better in the mountains. And I had all of this stuff, but I was just basically reciting the brochure. And at some point, it was an Overland. I remember specifically, it was an Overland diesel pusher. He said, "Okay, I want it." And I was like, just 1 second. Like I ran to my mom and said, "Mom, he wants it. What do we do now?" And she's like, "Here's the paperwork. Get him to sign this and get him to write a check for a deposit." I said, "Okay." And so I went in there and got him to sign. This is like, but yeah, I was 15. So this is, 40 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, 40 years ago, dude. And I remember my mom brought the buyer's order with the check to my dad, and my dad said, "What's this?" And she said, "Well, Joey sold an RV." What? He's got to have a license. He can't just go out there and sell stuff. Like, that's illegal. I don't even think a 15-year-old can have a license. Like, what are you doing? And then my mom, like, up to this point, like, we had all worked for my dad. Like, my dad was pretty much a workaholic. So to get around my dad, you had to figure out how to get to his job. And so, I washed RVs. My brother, washed RVs. I was like 15, so I was still out there sweating in the heat and working, doing the RVs. Well, my mom, I was making, minimum wage, $7 an hour, whatever it was back then. And my mom, went in and negotiated on my behalf to my dad. My dad was like, "Well, I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to pay him for working the show." And my mom said, "No, no, no, you got to pay him like a salesman." And my dad was like, "Well, I mean, he's not a salesman. He's just, my kid." And my mom said, "No, you got to pay him like a salesman. A salesman makes 20% of the profit." So, hey, so that was my first time I got a check for, I think it was like $5,000, in one sale. I was ruined. I never, washed an RV again. I was like, "Hey, I am a salesman. That's me. I'll be the guy at the door trying to sell." So it was cool because it gave us, common ground. We were able to, I got a lot of common ground with my dad, from that. And my dad, I could tell, was proud, because I was, following his legacy. But that was my first step into making money. And I decided after that, that I like making money. So that was my goal in becoming an entrepreneur. It was purely amoral, just to make money. And I was after making more.
Well, and I love the first one because you're like, yeah, I could talk to this guy, and it's almost, all right, I'm here. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I
My
do?
dad taught me after that. He said there's two points to sales: make them want it and let them have it. And he said if you don't know how to do the other, then you might as well stop trying to make them want it. It's like pulling out a gun with no bullets. Like, you got to be able to shoot if you're going to pull out the gun. So anyway, it definitely, was interesting to say the least. Oh, I'm sorry. My dog is starting to come in the picture.
I'll say your mobile security.
My mobile security, dude. All right. Hey, you gotta get out the way.
He's got to get comfortable. That's the star of the show.
When you have when you have a pit bull, you just let them do what they want.
I understand.
All right. Yeah.
So
at some point, you realize you're not the ruler of the house.
so at 15, first sales job.
Yeah.
But then, so when did it become, all right, I'm going to move away from sales for dad to I'm doing it for me?
So I went to Bible college for a year and a half or 2 years, and my dad ended up closing down the RV dealership, and went into he actually went to work as a cameraman for Jimmy Swaggart because he was just burnt out, and whenever I didn't just take over the company, he got I feel like that it sort of hurt his feelings, because I was going to be a pastor. I actually be a youth pastor is what I wanted to be. So he said, "Okay, you're going to go down that road. Then, I'm going to go ahead and sell." He sold it to his business partners, and got out of it. And we went through a sort of a rough patch there, not relationally, but financially, my dad went through a rough patch after he sold the RV dealership, because we went from making big loads of money to making regular salaries. It's the first time my dad had ever gotten out of sales, and just he'd been in sales my whole life. He sold national life insurance. He sold, for them. Heck, I grew up on stories of my grandma and my dad selling pots and pans. Whenever my dad was like 7 or 8, he'd travel with my grandma, all around selling Stanley pots and pans. And so my grandmother was a salesperson, was entrepreneurial and salesperson. My dad was, and it sort of rubbed off on me. But as I journeyed into becoming a pastor, youth pastor, I mean, my dad was super proud, because we all got saved at the same time. Like, I got saved whenever I was like 14, and my whole family ended up committing to the Lord and got saved. So, like, he was proud of me for pursuing becoming a pastor. And yet I think he was a little frustrated that I was 18, so, he a little frustrated that I didn't take over. So fast forward, my dad ran out of money. I didn't realize that, the RV dealership had something to do with all the money we had. I didn't put two
Amazing
and two
how we
together. I don't know
know
why.
that as kids, right?
Yeah. I just don't. I don't think that we should be allowed to make any really decisions until we're like past 25. Personally, I think that's like you're running a college full of kids, man. You get it. I think it's just cool that they take at 18 and say, "What do you want to do with your life?" Like, you don't know what you want to do with your life.
No, I was probably the rare exception that knew what I wanted to do at 18. So I knew, I'd always said, from as long as I can remember, I wanted to play football. And when I was done playing football, I wanted to coach football.
Well, and you could be like the guy on the Colts and just go back to playing again. I mean, I'm just saying that,
Yeah. Some of that problem with that is, at some point I ran out of talent.
There you go. Your talent outran your performance.
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of like,
Yeah. I get it, man. That's that makes sense. So at 18, I went into Bible college. At 20 years old, I ran out of money, and went to work for. I worked for Jimmy Swaggart as a security guard, and then I went to work for like a print shop. Again, just filling in the gaps. And one day, my dad called and said, "Hey, one of my buddies, started an RV dealership, and he needs some help. On the weekends, he needs somebody to come in and do sales." And so he said, "Can you do that for me? Would you mind doing it?" And he said, I can't do it with my job." He's like, "I work on the weekends, so can you go out there?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll go try it out." I mean, again, I was 20. I just got married. And so he sent me over there. I went, and it was, IP Daniels was the name of the guy. And I went to the dealership and, figured out the RVs and sold for the day. And when I got through at the end of the day, I said, "Okay, man, I'm going to see you next week." And he said, "Hold up." He said, you sold 3 RVs today." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I can get paid whenever the commission comes through. They haven't funded yet." And he said, "You don't understand." He said, "We've been open 6 months and we haven't sold 3 RVs. You sold 3 RVs today." And he said, you're not going back to work anywhere." And he's like, what do I need to pay you?" And I was like, I mean, at the time I was making $10 an hour, and I was thinking I was like the fat cat, because I was making money, that was 35 years ago. So I said, "Man, I'm making good money. I don't know, man." He said, "How about I pay you $1,000 a week?" I was like, "That'll work." I'm in. So I went to work for him for 2 years.
Paperwork.
Yeah, for like 2 years I went to work for that guy, and we ended up selling an RV to Pastor Larry Stockstill, and I was going to church there. So I was my pastor, but we sold an RV to him, and I was I was struggling with a lot of things that were going on with the dealership because they were constantly changing commissions and, doing a lot of sideways stuff that I knew because of my dad. I've been in with my dad in the RV business, so I knew every part of it. Most people that went into sales didn't understand finance and didn't understand trade-in values and, the actual ACV, actual cash values of RVs and stuff like that. But I understood all that. So whenever I look at the paperwork, I could see clearly where it'd be like, hey, we gave them, $25,000 for this. The ACV was $20,000 and you sold it for $23,000 to this wholesaler. I need to be paid on the $23,000, not the 18. And they didn't like that. They're like, oh, well, you shouldn't be knowing what's going on inside the back end of this thing. And I was like, how about I call the wholesaler and I'll wholesale it. Another way I can make the commission on that too. So, so my Pastor Larry buys this RV and it almost flips on them whenever they're out in the middle of Florida. Something wrong with the trailer. It was a travel trailer. And I went back and said, hey, man, I told the guy I was working for, said, we need to do something for my pastor. Can we help him out? Maybe send the trailer back on to Indiana and figure out what's going on with it. And the guy that I was working for said, man, there's three P's I don't worry about: pimps, prostitutes, and preachers. He's like, ain't none of them going to sue me. He's like, I'm all right. Just let them go. And I remember going out to the van with Pastor Larry and sitting there talking to him. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do with this, Pastor. I mean, they're just, I didn't tell him what they said. I just said, they're not going to do anything. And he said, Joey, he said, you may want to consider moving on. He said, I feel like that there's a short window of time that this place is going to be open. And you need to figure out what you're going to do next. And I'd already been thinking about going out on my own. And I told him I was thinking about, going out on my own and starting an RV dealership. And he said, Joey, that's the Lord. So I'm 22 and I look like I'm 10. I was young looking, and I remember I left from there and I went to, back then it was Louisiana National Bank. And I went in and talked to the lady that, ran the bank. And I said, look, I'm wanting to start my own RV dealership. I'm going to be wholesaling and buying and selling and stuff. And I need to get a line of credit. And she said, well, I don't know how much do you want? And I said, well, I need like $100,000. And she said, do you have any collateral?
Hey, if you've liked what you've seen so far, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. That way we can continue to bring you great guests and great content like you've seen so far. Now back to the episode.
And I was like, what's that?
I was about to say, how do you spell that? What?
Yeah. Huh? I was like, what's collateral? Like, what do you mean? She said, well, I mean, like, what are your assets? What do you own? And I was like, well, I got this Jeep, I was like, I got this Jeep. I got, I didn't have a house. I didn't have anything.
Ma'am, I'm 22. Said, well,
she's like, let me pull your credit. And I was like, I didn't even know what a credit report was. She was like, let me pull your credit. And I was like, well, okay. And she's like, you don't have any credit. You don't have a credit card. You don't have any business experience. Do you have a business plan? I was like, ma'am, I don't know how to write a business plan. I was like, I'm just telling you, I must buy RVs and sell them. And so once you go back home and I'll let you know something tomorrow. So she called me up the next day. Look, I didn't get you approved for, $100,000, but I got you approved for $10,000. Can you come to the bank and sign the paperwork? Well, I went to the bank to sign the paperwork. She wasn't there. And the bank president was the one signing the paperwork with me, which I thought was odd because, I mean, why would the bank president be signing paperwork with me? And he said, do you know, that lady's retirement day was yesterday, the day that you came in. Day before yesterday, the day you came in was the day she was retiring. And she came into my office and she's never asked us since she's been here for 30 plus years, but she asked for a personal favor to get your loan approved for $10,000. And he said, there's no reason at all that we should give you this $10,000. You have no collateral. You have no payment history. You don't have anything we can even come get if you don't pay us. But he said, because she asked for it, I'm going to go ahead and give you this line of credit and let you, let you have it. So it started me down a road of you know, I didn't understand that, like, I see entrepreneurs all the time, man. They struggle with, like, how do I start a business? And they usually get hung up around the money. They're like, well, but I need money. I got to have the money to be able to do this. And, like, really, money's like is important, but it's favor. Favor is the most valuable commodity as an entrepreneur. And so for me, man, like, that's at my beginning. You asked me at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, but I just had to tell that story because, like, the beginning was actually, like, just unmerited, like, recognized, like, favor that this lady gave me. That she retired the next day. I didn't even see her again. I've never seen her again. Never. I didn't meet her. She wasn't there to sign the paperwork. The main president did it because he was like, well, I can't put anybody else's name on this. It's got to be mine because she asked for a favor. So I'm gonna sign off on it.
And that's one I joke with people about, when they're like, oh, money isn't everything. And I'm usually like, well, it ranks right up there next to oxygen.
Yeah, hey, I've been wealthy and I've been poor, and I like wealthy a lot better. It's a lot more fun.
It can't buy happiness, but it can buy motorcycles. And motorcycles make people happy.
That's right. Right. Buy pianos, they can buy all kinds of stuff. I think that I feel like that money is pretty much like a barometer. I feel like that in heaven, like, God, releases money to people, and it's like he's with the angels, like, hey, watch this. Let's see how this guy acts. Okay, here's a bunch of money. What does he do with it? Like, is he going to help other people? Is he going to just hoard it to himself? Is he going to build a bunch of barns and and make more money that he's stored up for the future, or what's his plan? So I feel like that's like, to me, like, money is important, but it just takes a different level of importancy. I think in your life, whenever you understand that it's not the driving factor, you have to use it to measure if you're going to stay in business. And, if the business is making money, you need to know your numbers. So I'm not, negating that, but I'm saying, like, it can't be the reason why you're not doing your dream.
Yeah. Well, and that's what my grandfather used to always say, was that, money to him was just a tool. Once that, he grew up poor, like that, he always talked about, stealing onions out of his neighbor's garden, and that was supper at times. And how just important it was for him to be able to give back. And if he was like, I've got money now, if I see somebody in need and I can help, I'm going to help. Because much like you said, with that lady giving you, hey, here's a $10,000 loan, he remembered all the people that helped him along the way to get to where he is.
Right. It's amazing how, favor isn't fair. Like, it doesn't, like, it doesn't follow the accomplished. What I find is that it follows the peaceful. Like, you can do nothing to, like, work up favor. You can't, like, make it to where you have favor. Like, that's something that even if you try, it becomes almost like a con, and it's not favor. But favor is what happened with the Egyptians to the Israelites. When the Israelites left to go on, out of town, and they were taken off, the Bible says that the Egyptians, like, forced gold and silver and the wealth of riches, like, forced them to take it, and were doing it as offerings. And that's the thing, is like, favor, it doesn't make sense. The kid that was, walking down the street and somebody handed him a golden necklace and said, hey, I'm giving this to you for your God. The kid didn't deserve that. He didn't earn it. It wasn't because he was a great, faithful guy. His name's not written in the Bible. They don't have, like, Josiah's son, Josephus, received a gold necklace, but it changed that kid's life. What he did with it, as they walk out, there's two things you can do with money. And one is to, use it to fund the vision that God puts in you. The other is build idols. Like, half of the children of Israel received the same favor, and they melted down their gold to build an idol. So, like, I think that, like, that's the key, is like whenever favor comes on you, God's watching to see, like, how do you handle this favor? What are you going to do with it? How are you going to use this? Are you going to use it it's in our nature. Like, we're going to use it to make ourselves successful. That's okay. God actually smiles at that. I think he's like, okay, and that's cool. But what do you do with it?
Well, I mean, Jesus even talks about it in the parable of the talents. It's one of my favorites that I always used to talk with my teams about was, we've all been given a certain amount of talent, and there it was money, but that being able to take and turn that into, like we should, if you've got one talent, turn it into two. If you've got 5, turn it into 10. And so that's honoring to the Lord that we're going to be able to take what we've been given and turn it back into Him. And it's not just money.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, I think that the story of the talents, like, actually has to do with relationships, the relationship with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either walking in fear that you're going to go to hell at all times, or you're walking in understanding of who you are in Christ, and therefore you understand, hey, I'm a joint heir in Christ Jesus. Like, I'm relatively brought into the bloodline. I'm adopted into Christ. So it's two different mindsets, of whether you're going to walk it out with God or without God, in my opinion.
Falls in one of the things that one of the episodes that I talked about previously, when me and it was Caitlin, we were doing our book review on the time traveler's gift. They talk about that a lot. Andy Andrews talks about, are you going to be a person of faith or a person of fear? Because they're both the same thing. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. Which are you going to let influence you? And that's basically what you were saying. Are you going to live in fear or faith?
Or faith. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so the faith side of it, like, in order to take, a talent and turn it into 10 talents, you have to have ultimate faith, to be able to do that, because you realize that if you lose it, God loves you anyway. It's going to be all right, and you just keep moving forward. Whereas the other guy that was saying, hey, I know you're a hard taskmaster, and if I buried your talent, I didn't do anything with it because I was operating out of fear. And that's what I'm saying. Is like, I remember sitting down one time with one of my, I think it was a CPA or a tax attorney. And he said, Joey, you're just so brave, man. Like, you just, like, you risk all, and like, you're all in all the time. And like, you're like, one of the bravest guys I know in business. And I said, the difference is you think that, like, the guys that were samurais and ninja warriors, people looked at them as brave. But the difference is that we run at the cliff. We don't see the cliff as entrepreneurs until we're right up on it. And then we jump and our legs break and we crawl up, body crawl to the other side of the ravine and still kill the guy. And so you look at us as fearless. Well, we didn't see the ravine. You were up on the hill and you saw the ravine, like, hours ago. And you're like, dude, this guy's going to run off that cliff. They're going to run off that cliff. He's just brave, man. I can't believe. No, he's not brave. I just didn't see the cliff. It wasn't,
I just didn't know no
that I was
better.
brave. I didn't see the cliff, dude. And I think that, to me, like, an entrepreneur that's successful is not the one that hasn't failed. Honestly, whenever I go into looking at going to business with somebody, if they tell me they've never failed, I don't go into business with them. Because if you haven't failed, I don't want to be the first chance. Like, you're going to fail. I don't want to be the first time you experience failure. I would rather go with somebody that's experienced it, doesn't like the taste in their mouth, and is going to do whatever it takes to not experience that taste again.
Well, and it's, it's one, like, I've been talking with my son. So talking about the failure, he's struggling, that freshman in high school, not wanting to do his work. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to sit here and harp on, like, do you have straight A's? Because he's kind of got that entrepreneur in him. He's looking for ways to hustle and make money around the neighborhood. And I'm like, dude, that you got to be okay with failing, because you're going to fail a lot, but don't stay there. Don't accept it just because dad said I can fail. Don't accept it, because if you fail, you do go back to 9th grade.
Yeah, I can say that entrepreneurs I see as a whole struggle in
Mm-hmm.
school. That's a problem for us because the structure of school, unless you're homeschooling your kids, the structure of school was designed to entertain and to make busy work and to keep you. I figured that out as we started homeschooling our kids, and they got through with their work in an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'm talking about the whole day: math, science, English, the whole thing. 2 hours, and I was like, what did they do the other 6 hours at school? Like what are they supposed to? And so we turned them out to go play and hey, go build a fort and problem solve and yeah, and but I'm saying like that's the thing, man. It's like we don't learn, you know, that it's actually school is just there to sort of entertain us, and so it's taking us off track.
And it was set up by you got to look who was set up: the factory owners, the factory workers, the Carnegies, and whatnot.
Right.
So that's why every class changes on a bell. Hey, break time.
Well, but I mean, entrepreneurs, we struggle because like we're the clowns of the class. We're the ones that were, class clowns. We're the ones that I got called to the principal's office so many times that we had a thing called TOR that they started back then. I'm sure they still have it in school now, timeout room. I literally had my own desk in TOR, like everybody on the Breakfast Club and all that stuff, and they make fun of it. I had my desk. It was the front of the class. The teacher always knew when I was going to be there. Hey, Joey, what's going on? Let's listen. I'd sit down and talk to the teacher, and we'd shoot the breeze half the time because I knew him so well. And I was that 15-year-old that could actually carry a conversation with that adult because I was in sales.
You just made $5,000 last weekend, and that's
right,
more than the teacher
right.
made all year.
Like exactly. I was thinking to myself, like we're and it creates a problem because as entrepreneurs, you don't have like this barrier, like you don't have this fear of the teacher and the fear of what's going to happen in school. I mean, I remember it's not anything to brag about, but I remember my freshman year, I made 6 Fs and a D. And I was a little. I mean, that was my final grade for the year. I was a little disappointed that I couldn't pull off that last D, to be an F.
Try hard enough, man.
Oh no, I tried. I couldn't get it. It was a PE. They wouldn't give me an F. But my point was, like, I went to summer school every year, literally at Redemptorist High School. I went to summer school there every year from ninth grade all the way through high school. I went to military school for one of those years because I was so bad. And so I can tell you that if you're out there and that's, we're sitting here with people listening to the podcast and you've got a kid that's like this knothead that you're struggling with, just be encouraged. Probably the knothead is going to be the one that's going to be the most successful because yes, he's not listening to you, and yes, he's rolling his eyes and doing all this stupid stuff, but ultimately, like, he's going to come through and probably going to be. Case was my knothead, my son Case. He's been on the show. He was my knothead, dude, that like got in trouble with everything, dude. I mean, I'm sure he didn't tell you anything that he actually did.
No, he didn't. So let's
okay.
recording.
So I don't know how deep we can go down that hole, but
no, I don't know if we have enough. I wouldn't want somebody to start telling all the stuff I did.
Yeah, well, so the thing is like the entrepreneurs were like, we're overachievers.
Mm-hmm.
So like we overachieve in everything, even being bad. Like we don't like like other kids say, hey, I'm gonna go sneak off and smoke pot. I was a kid that was like, hey, let's go buy 50,000 pounds of pot and sell it. So like I'm the overachiever in my family. And I was overachieving being bad, but the problem with me was I got caught in everything.
So you weren't even good at being bad.
I wasn't good at being bad, man. I get caught at everything, man. They would throw the book at me and then be like, okay, you obviously don't fear the wrath of this judicial system, so we're going to do this. And so I'm encouraging you that like your kids that are struggling at 18 and 15 and all that, like they're going to be okay. Just give them a little bit of time. Case went through all these struggles, but at 21 He bought his first property, and now he's turning 30, and he's successful and running a business, and nobody would know that he's a punk kid that was sneaking out of the house at 15. But everybody else sees a different thing. But I think that's the encouragement to entrepreneurs is like, if you're raising an entrepreneur, don't be discouraged that they're going to think outside the box. Don't be discouraged that they don't fit in at school. They don't really necessarily do well with the the regime, the structure that's put around them. I remember one time I was in the 5th grade, and Miss Gaucher was my teacher, and I was so much talking all the time in class that she finally took my desk and turned it around to face the back wall. And the next day when she came into class after recess, I'd convinced everybody to turn the desk around, and we all were facing the back wall. And she was the only one that she had to go to the back wall to be able to teach the rest of the class. And that's an entrepreneur. Like, you don't have like any other choice. It's like in you to lead. And I think that like that's the key when we're talking about like favor and peace. Like, favor follows peace. And the reason why people walk in favor, entrepreneurs walk in favor, is because they have a peace about them. And if they have a peace about them, that's a confidence, is what they call it. If you're not a Christian, it's called self-confidence. And that confidence is what draws people to you. And they call it all kinds of stuff in the world. They say you have positive energy and positive vibes, and they don't even know how to describe it. But the thing you've got is peace. And if you have peace when you're pitching an idea, then people are going to probably believe you. If you're like, I think this might work, I don't know if it's going to work, you're probably going to lose everything, but let's give it a shot. Wouldn't you like to invest? Like, that guy's not the guy you want to invest with, but the guy that says, look, this has got questions that it could lose money as possible, but here's all the upsides, and it could make all kinds of money, and this is a benefits, and I believe in it. And that's what people invest in. Is like, hey, you believe in it.
We want to take a quick moment to shout out today's premier sponsor, Vicki with Hubbard Flooring Studio. Leadership always starts with a strong foundation, and so does your home or office. Vicki and her team don't just cover floors, they help you step into excellence one plank, tile, or carpet at a time. And now, they are offering Hunter Douglas blinds, giving you the ability to set the tone, control the light, and create the perfect environment to lead from. Hubbard Flooring Studio, where strong foundations and bright visions begin. They invest in you, and I think that's cool too that you were saying, and even I think a testament. So like, and since you brought it up, that you staying on and working with Case and working with your son and staying invested in him, and that's a testament to the Lord's favor upon you, and then ultimately getting passed down to Case. So if there are people on here listening that hey, stay on them, stay the course, keep fighting the fight with I hate to say fighting the fight, but keep fighting for what's right. Your child will come back if you stay on them.
Right. It's not another thing I would advise is like, share your failures. I find that like most parents, like don't want to share, any weakness or any failures. And therefore their kids are setting a bar so high that they couldn't possibly, reach it. And then when they have failure, they think, oh, well, you can't identify with it because you never failed.
Right. Yeah.
I could tell you were thinking about something. What was that?
Yeah, I've never failed, so.
Well,
so let's not bring up that previous
guy,
conversation we just had the other day.
We're not going to. I actually follow a guy that teaches the course at Duke called Fail Fast, I think is the name of the course or something. He's
I know what you're talking about. I follow him too.
Yeah,
he's
I love
another
that guy
Aaron
because he gives like, yeah, not quite as good looking than me. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just saying it's like being able to fail and fail fast, like teaching your kids failure. One of the things that my son Case said to me, I went through failure in business and had struggles and faced problems, but I would share it with them, what was going on. I didn't give them all the details. Hey, we need $1.5 million by next week, or we're going to lose the house. I didn't share that kind of stuff. That's too heavy for a kid. But they knew that, hey, we're struggling with stuff and we're asking God to provide. We don't really know how it's going to happen. We're just looking, to God, and teaching them like how to navigate failure. Like he watched me fail. He watched me push through, and they watched me go to the next side. And I remember one of the things he told me when he got older was, he said, Dad, the reason why I'm serving God today is because you never quit. Like you didn't approach the problem as if, you're angry at God. You didn't approach the problem as if you're angry at yourself. You just approached the problem as if God was your partner, and you talked to God through this whole thing, and you never forsook him. And he said, and I see now, like, you're successful again. And the reason why is because you didn't give up. You didn't quit. And if your kids aren't seeing you fail, again, if you're going through a divorce, your kids don't need to know that your husband's a no good two-time jerk. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like whenever you're trying to figure out how to do your budget, and you realize that, like, hey, we're making $5,000 a month and we're spending $5,500. The kids should be brought into that conversation. Hey guys, we're making $5,000 a month and we're spending $5,500. Either Dad needs to get another job, or we need to figure out how to cut, $1,000 out of our budget so we can breathe. Here's the hard choices we're going to make. We're going to sell Mom's car, and we're going to, sell the golf cart, and we're going to sell the bass boat, and we're going to pay off all this stuff. And look, now we're back to $4,500. And guess what? We could go on that vacation we talked about. You see what I'm saying? Like that's way more valuable to me than, like, I used to be the guy that just tried to shield their kids and they just don't need to see anything. And I think it's valuable, man, to like share some of the struggle. I'm not saying, Aaron, like, sit down with your son and say, hey son, we need to make $10,000 or we're going to lose the car.
Right. And
like the pressure doesn't need to be on him.
That's what I was going to ask you is there a thing as being too open? And I think you kind of have goad there. Ooh. Now, that's a new word.
I have goad there, man. So what were you a professor? I'm just trying to.
Yes. Goad is now a new word. Everybody can use it. It's in the Coach Clark dictionary.
There you go. The Coach Clark goaded. They goaded you on, man. I mean, that is a thing. Like,
yeah. This one's GOED. Goad.
Yeah. Okay. It's like go ahead.
That's what I was thinking. I might make a website or something out of that.
There you go. But I think like understanding, man, like that there is a way to share, the reality of what's going on without having to share all the intimate details. Like I promise you, your kids are going to build a narrative themselves if you don't, and you'll come out in counseling later on, that they'll be like, well, Dad just didn't love me. Is the reason why he didn't spend any time with me. Like, well, no, Dad worked 2 jobs because y'all couldn't come up with a way to get your budget from $5,500 to $4,500. So Dad worked 2 jobs to be able to make sure that you had food on the table. You see what I'm saying? Like the narrative's going to be built, with or without you. You might as well be a part of the narrative and actually help them to navigate through some of this stuff, and share the victories too. Like, hey, this is what God did. We talked about that. I don't know if you said you got your book, that the victories and prayer requests.
Yes, I do. Yeah, we talk about that whenever I put them in there. And hey, I actually need to go update it. So,
I find that's hard for you guys that are listening that don't understand what we're talking about. We had this idea in our businessmen's breakfast, or not breakfast. I wish it was breakfast. I keep bringing donuts, thinking they're going to turn into a breakfast.
I mean, it is kind of like breakfast.
Yeah,
and there is coffee.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's coffee and there's donuts, but I mean, I just saying Frank's would be a little holier. I don't know if we can consider like that move. It's not that far.
We'll bring up the lotion next time.
Yeah. So we talked about in our Bible study, man, about like, what is the function of leadership, if not to leave a legacy? like to leave like, hey, this is where we struggled and this is how God provided. And this is where we struggled and this is what happened in the end. And it's okay. Like that, like some of the things I, I, I think that people don't understand. Like I've written down, hey, God saved my business. And then we lose it. Now, what do you do? What do you write on the right side of the journal? We're talking about creating a journal of legacy. Like, hey, here's a prayer request and here's the positives. And like, what do we write on the right side of, like, we say, God save our business and we lose it. We say, God save our marriage and we end up in divorce. Like that's part of our legacy. It's like, okay, what do you do whenever God doesn't do what you tell him to? The creator of the universe, the king of all things that created everything, whenever he doesn't obey you.
Right. Well, and I think you too got to look at what was God protecting you from in that moment. I love the book, The Energy Bus. And so when I'm struggling, that's one of the ones that I go back to because, in there, the main character.
I get on the struggle bus. I'm joining the struggle buses and that energy.
Well, you can have energy on the struggle bus.
There you go. Okay.
But one of the things they were talking about is, the main character, he had a flat tire, and then turns out that when he went to go get the tire fixed, that there was a recall on the brakes and that his brakes weren't working properly. And so like they'd actually went out on him or weren't. So, cause he had to get it towed there. And so he's mad that, I need my car to get to work to save my job. But like, dude, you should have died on the way to work if you wouldn't have had a flat tire.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing I'm saying is that like, it's important to show like, hey, we prayed for this and God didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what came out of that.
Right.
This is what I didn't see, the unseen that was under the water. The Titanic didn't go down because of the scene. It went down because of the unseen, the iceberg that was sitting under the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think that's the point of trying to tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly, and let them see how you made it through. Because if the kids don't know how to, like, I value so much like the time that we homeschooled because like it was, we did practical things like, hey, here's a budget. This is how we create a budget. This is the money coming in. This is the money going out. This is what it looks like. And so it helped as we raise our kids. Like I didn't have to struggle with wondering like, are they going to know how to budget? Are they going to know how to create a good financial plan? What's going to be their path in life? So, I think to me, that's one of the things that I see entrepreneurial wise. Like I wrote a book series called My First Business. And so I deal with a lot of like adult entrepreneurs that have kids as entrepreneurs because I talk in different, sessions and stuff about this kind of stuff. And I think that like the next generation that's coming behind us is think about, Aaron, whenever you were coming up. I know when I was coming up, I was in the era of when they created computers. I bought the first PC. My parents bought me the first PC Junior at like 13 or 12 years old. I started programming in Basic A and DOS at like 13. I was writing programs and stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just playing. My other buddies were just playing video games. I was creating video games. And I was having fun with it. And I could have pursued down that path, but I think we're in the same era right now. Like our kids are like my grandkids. One of the presents that they're looking at for Christmas is to get Sora, AI creation, videos. Like we're in that era. Like, and how are you treating it? Like, are you teaching your kids to treat AI like a toy? Are you teaching them to treat it like an enemy? I heard a preacher talking about how AI is the devil, and we're gonna all go to hell if we, say the words AI. And he said it 27 times in the message. But I'm just saying, he was like, hey, it's the end of the world, but we're in a paradigm shift. Like our kids are going to be way more successful than we are, and they're going to build things that we couldn't possibly dream of by the time they're 15, and and going into college. I think they're going to accomplish things that we couldn't have dreamed of because of AI,
Right. And that's kind of a cool, interesting shift too, because I wrote that down. We were talking before how you were talking about how you use the AI to with helping making decisions and basically as a mentor. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So most people don't understand that like AI is like saying the internet. Open source AI is the internet. Like websites are the connection tool to the internet to be able to pull down knowledge. So Google, Bing, whatever we're used to using, is the way that we capture knowledge. All this happened with ChatGPT and Grok and Claude and all the different websites is that they all have different like pathways to be able to access the internet and pull knowledge from the internet, at a faster pace. Like Google, I used to use Google and I don't even use it anymore, but I used to use Google to ask questions like, hey, what was this? Who was that? Why did this start? And if you notice, like I actually did this, I was driving, so I couldn't like get on my chat GPT and I just asked Siri, like, hey, tell me about this person. And if you notice, Google is starting to use AI. It's literally starting to get it to where it's like, and instead of saying, go to this website and it'll tell you about it, it pulls up and actually tells you something. And it's because even Google's scared of AI. Like it's coming. Like that's going to be the future. So what we're talking about is like how we train it. Like your AI is as smart as you. And so if you get on your AI and I can sit there and look at your chat GPT and go back and look at your history. And if your history says stuff like send me, pictures of my dad whenever he, turns 100, send me feet pics and let me, all the stupid stuff, like draw a cartoon of my dog, then your AI is probably sort of stupid and it gives you stupid answers.
Oh yeah.
Whereas with mine, what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm saying, hey, here's a book by what was Herzagi?
Oh,
What was
Alex
the
Hermosi.
guy's last? Hormozy, right? Here's Alex Hormozy. Now I'm reading a book by Alex Hormozy and I'm like, this is interesting to me. I need you to go in, chat, and read every book ever written by Hormozy and use that as uh, one of my things that I use to go through in decision making. And so I created a bot that I've uploaded every book that he's ever written. I've uploaded every book that was ever written or article by Warren Buffett. All the people that I admire, even Elon Musk, I put them all in there and like, hey, I need you to become a mentor that uses all of this to help me make a decision. So when I go in and throw an idea up, hey, I think I want to do this, it breaks it down and says, well, this is what Alex would say, and this is what Warren would say, and this is what this would say. And the overall consensus is, Joey, you should probably do this.
And that's
that's powerful.
And it is.
Yeah.
And that's one I don't think enough people do anyways, is like, you also need to introduce yourself to AI. So, I mean, like whenever you had suggested using Claude, that's quickly becoming my go-to.
Right.
Most
people out there don't even know that there is anything besides ChatGPT. It's like,
right.
That's the only access source that they know. But if you're wanting to do programming, then you need to, use Gemini. If you're using, if you want to research, use Claude. If you want to do graphics design, you're using Grok. I mean, it's like a different tool for whichever personality trait you're trying to capture out of it. And it's frustrating if you're using Claude and you're trying to get it to write a program. And you're like, it doesn't speak Python.
No.
It doesn't understand how to build an app. You know what I'm saying? You can get mad at it.
No, but it has a lot of good research in it. It's, oh man,
it's a tremendous research tool. And if you're writing a book, you need to have Claude as, the thing to proofread it and, all that kind of stuff. I actually used AI to make a song the other day. Wrote a song, created a AI generated avatar, created a Facebook page, created an Instagram, created a LinkedIn, and he's going up on Spotify like within the next month. And he's going to be an artist all through AI. Like the stuff that as kids, the stuff that we were like, man, I'd like to be a rock star. Man, I'd like to be able to sing country music. Man, I'd like to be able to, like, it's all instant now. Like, you want to be a country singer? Okay, write a song, throw it into this, see if it comes out the way that you want it to say. Okay, now put it up. And like the pathway to success is becoming so broad that I think a lot of people are going to be going down that road and becoming successful, using AI.
Absolutely. And so as we're kind of coming up on time, I always got a couple of questions that I like to ask people. And so the first one is I always ask, what's one book that you would recommend that any leader or entrepreneur read?
So I would say Raving Fans. This is an old school throwback. Like it's probably something that most of the readers, most of the listeners haven't even heard of. But it's a book called Raving Fans that I recommend you read because the moral of the story, and I won't ruin the book, but is you can always see a raving fan when you're watching a football game. The fans are the ones with the Saints jersey on. The raving fans are the ones with the Pope outfit on and painted themselves black and gold on their whole body. That's a raving fan. So they took energy to show their support, and raving fans will be the ones that actually drive your business and make you successful. So anyway, for me, that Raving Fans is like a core book. That would be like one of those, you got to read it.
By Ken Blanchard? So
yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, you can.
I'm going to read that one.
Yeah. There's a bunch of other books, Who Moved My Cheese and stuff like that. That's really good. But that would be a good book for you to read right now is Who Moved My Cheese.
You shelf in just a second. And
okay. You bet. Okay. There you go. But anyway, so that to me, like, that's it. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I try to stay up to date because I feel like that with what I'm doing inside of AI, it's really like by the time it gets to a book form, it's already like of something that's like we're talking about history. By the time it gets to the book form, podcast is like, yeah. I mean, it's cool. Like I do read books, and I mean, you got to get like the vision of of what the leaders are saying, and that makes sense. But to me, I think it's about the people. Like if I could say anything, it's like that's what Raving Fans is teaching about. It's like, hey, it's not about your product. It's not about even anything else in your business. It's about the people. And if you build enough profit into your business, you'll be able to take care of people. If you build enough, profit into the upfront, whenever you're selling something, you can service people better. You don't want to be the cheapest firewood company in town. You want to be the best firewood company in town. So you can't do that if you don't have the money to pay your staff better than any other firewood company. And if you're going to pay your staff better than any other firewood company, you can hold them to a higher level of customer service. And therefore they're going to serve your customers better. And so when you look at the reviews that we get, like I have a firewood company, we look at the reviews, they seem like it's different. It's a raving fan review. These guys came out and started my fire and, took care of me and made sure that my mom didn't have to suffer through the cold front because they brought firewood to them every day. It's those kind of things. It's not, if you find that your reviews are, these guys are great, like one sentence reviews, good food, I enjoyed eating there. That's written by a satisfied customer. The Raving Fan reviews is, Johnny's Pizza is the best pizza I've ever had in my life. The crust just trips off your mouth and you can just taste it when you crunch into it. And I love the ambiance. And Julia, my server, is always asking me how I'm doing. And they're so personable. Like that's a Raving Fan review. And which one would you follow if you're going down and reading the reviews and you see the one? I mean, I've actually been on sites where I'm reading people's reviews and it's got to be a bot because it's the same thing, one sentence review over. These guys are amazing. These guys are great. These guys are cool. These guys are amazing. These guys are great. These guys are cool. And it's like, okay, well, what does that tell me about them? Like I need to know if they sell green firewood. I need to know what they're, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just using that because we're in the middle of firewood season, but I'm saying like inside of your business, if you if you're trying to get started in business and you're trying to release this idea that you have out in the world, two things I would say is that number one, entrepreneurs in general you probably have at least 5 ideas you're working on right now. If you're an entrepreneur, 5 things that you got, in your pipeline that you're thinking about. Whenever I'm, in bed at night, getting ready to go to sleep and I'm on social media or whatever I'm doing to wind myself down, most of the time I'm probably going to come up with a business before I go to bed. Like, well, we could do this. And we did. I own
Stop
probably,
Stop it. Don't do it.
I know. I own at least 100 websites that I'll probably never use. But it's just because like it made sense at 2:00 in the morning. Dude, you need to buy the I'm going to brush my teeth every night.com.
That's why I couldn't purchase that. Okay. I know who owns
that's really good. Yeah. So the thing is like as an entrepreneur, like how do we filter that down into the great things and the not so great things?
Well, I think it's kind of like with Thomas Edison with the light bulb. I mean, you go through a whole bunch of stuff. I'm sure he had a million other things he was working on, but something said, "Hey, that's the one," and so he kept at it. And we all have that.
Yeah, I call it. I feel like it. There's something called the O factor I talk about all the time. So the only difference between a good idea and a God idea is one O.
Yep.
And you got to put people in your life that can make you ask the question, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, I didn't think of this. And the more people you get to ask you questions that make you say, oh, the more you'll start working on God ideas versus good ideas. So God ideas multiply. Nothing God ever created was created to like just be a single form. It always multiplied. So you created male, he created female. He made plants, people, animals, everything God created multiplies. Everything that is a good idea is not multiplying. It requires you 100%, all of your energy to make it successful. And at this time of year, that's where I'm actually going into this season where I'm taking everything and putting it on the altar and asking God, like, hey, what are the things that are just good ideas that I'm just driving? And I'm finding myself burnt out because I can be a workaholic too. Like just like my dad was. I mean, I found myself like I'm just like going. And my wife, I mean, if you're married to a spouse that's an entrepreneur, then it can be even harder because she's works even harder than me. And so like we find energy in saying like, well, let's just do this one more thing. Well, let's do this. Well, what if we did that? And we find ourselves up at midnight, like still working. And it's like, okay, let's evaluate. Are we doing all of this? And it's just a good idea. It's just something that's going to require us forever to constantly spin the wheel because it's never going to perpetually be spinning by itself versus is there something we put our energy into that we can spin the wheel and then it spins the wheel and spins the wheel and spins the wheel. And then now it's a generator and it generates, income. It generates, the things that you're trying to do passively. And so that's where I'm going in the season right now. Like we and I mean, I can tell entrepreneurs, like, I don't know if you've ever fasted, but we take, 7 days at the beginning of the year and fast, and try to like get before the Lord. And then, the first, the Monday of each week, is a good fast day. And then the first 3 days of each month, just like you need desperately to have a olfactory board full of guys that ask you questions. They're not on a formal board. It's not a serious board that has titles and all that kind of stuff. Some of the people I ask questions to, that you wouldn't even ask them a question. But if I'm writing a children's book, I literally have kids that are 10 years old that I send the book to. And I'm like, hey, does this make sense? Is this something that you follow? And they'll tell me, I don't understand this. What does this mean? What does that mean? And I'll change the book. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, you got to have an olfactory board of people that can ask you things that make you say, oh, I didn't think of that. And so I recommend getting that O board in your life. And then I also recommend every year to do a serious evaluation on like, where are we headed? Like if this business that I have as an entrepreneur, you probably have more than one. Like, is it matching the energy that I'm putting into it? Is it going to give back and be fruitful if I keep putting this energy into it? It's okay to lose money. I mean, Facebook lost money for the first, 5-10 years, didn't make any money. Eventually made money. And eventually so it's okay to invest in something like that you're not drawing super profit out of. But the thing is like, sit down and evaluate if this was the most successful that it could possibly be. Like, vision that out. Like, what would it take for you to get there? And then if you got there, would you be happy? Would that be satisfying to you? Or would you just like say, okay, what's next? As entrepreneurs, like, we're always moving the bar. Like, I haven't spoken to an entrepreneur. I've spoken to billionaires. I haven't spoken to an entrepreneur that felt successful. They feel successful for like, I got money, but I said, I haven't spoken to one that felt like, okay, that I've finally arrived. I've finally gotten here. I've met every goal that I could possibly get. And so I'm done. And I talk to guys that are in their 80s that are still like, the bar keeps moving and it keeps going. Like, you're just one good deal away from that next big thing. And it's because you're destined to change the world. You're not destined to change your street. You're not destined to change your neighborhood. You're not destined to change your city. You're destined to change the world. And so you have to like measure and say like, am I putting my energy into this for nothing? And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm in that measuring spot. As we go into the new year, I'm measuring and figuring out, and that's going to be. It's a tough call. It's one thing to like measure it. It's another thing to be like, hey, you know what? This isn't the direction we need to go anymore. We need to change paths. You have to be willing to drag it behind the barn and shoot it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like it. And I'm speaking to the choir. You,
you sure are.
You drug some stuff behind the barn and shot it in the last couple of months.
I sure have.
Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, when we shoot it, we're like, oh, wait a second. Was that a good idea? I don't know. Should I really shot that? Or like, should I just like,
no,
maybe?
It's not. But
yeah,
it's like you said, all things work out. If you're faithfully following God, it's going to work out. And so
yeah, you're going to make it through, man. I think so. But the takeaways I think for this podcast is like, hey, you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Being tenacious doesn't mean being stubborn. You think that that tenacity is the thing that's going to make you successful as an entrepreneur, but sometimes you're just arrogant and stubborn because you've got a bad idea and you're beating this poor mule trying to make it win the Kentucky Derby. And it's like, dude, the mule is never going to win the Kentucky Derby. I don't care how bad you beat it. It ain't going to win the Kentucky Derby. So get off the freaking mule.
Have you not watched a Disney movie ever? I mean, it could. For DreamWorks, a snail won a Formula One race.
There you go. It could happen. It could happen, man. Tell as old as time.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Well, Joey, I appreciate you getting on and sharing. Dude, it's been an awesome episode. Definitely going to have to get you on here again and talk some more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show, man. It was great being here, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man.
All right.
All right. That was a powerful conversation with Andrew Reynolds. We talked about what happens when business owners stop guessing and start building real systems. From CRMs, dialers that speed up lead response times, to the importance of clean processes that save time, money, and mental energy. Andrew also shared why fractional admins can be a game changer for small businesses, how technology can level the playing field for entrepreneurs, and why personal growth and continuous learning are non-negotiables for leaders who want longevity and not burnout. So, if this episode gave you clarity, challenged your thinking, or even helped you see business differently, do me a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and follow the podcast. Share this with another business owner who needs it. And if you're looking to connect with me, all of my links, email, website, social, they're right there on the screen and in the description. And remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep learning, keep leading, keep connecting, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast. If today's episode added value to you, do me a favor, follow the show and share it with someone who needs it. You can connect with me at my website, coachaclark.com, or on social media at Coach A. Clark. All the links are in the description. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep connecting.